Greetings and blessed day to you once again, people of God. It's the Revelator once again, and hoping the grace and the mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ is with you until the end of time, and praying that His grace, His mercy, His forgiveness will continue giving you another opportunity, and all that is needed is your willingness, your desire, your motivation to continue in the word of faith. Today, I've been sent once again with yet another deep exposure, a seemingly controversial presentation, but not controversial at all, but necessary in these times of the last hour, where the world has now been taken over by sin, and not just all kinds of sins have completely taken over, but there is one major sin that has invaded the earth above all sins, which is none other than sexual immorality. And today, I've been assigned once again by the Holy Spirit to expose what has been titled as the dirty sex tapes. The dirty sex tapes. And in this presentation, I'm going to be exposing the mental, the psychological playing tapes inside your mind, the version that is recycled inside your brains by Lucifer the devil. And for us to understand more on this presentation, let us get into the book of Romans chapter 1 verse 21, and it reads, "Because of that, when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened." They became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Becoming vain in your imaginations, it means not imagining according to the influence of the Holy Spirit, and further professing themselves to be wise, both the husbands and the wives, and even the single. They became even more fools. In Romans chapter 1 verse 24, "Wherefore God then resorted to a plan to teach them the hard way." In Romans chapter 1 verse 24, "Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanliness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves." When God then gave them up, He gave them up to uncleanliness. He did not send the flood this time to destroy men. He did not send the fire of Sodom and Gomorrah, but He simply gave them up. Do you know what happens when God has given you up? When God gives you up and you no longer have His presence, you no longer have His Spirit inside your life. When God is now frustrated and He just faces the opposite direction, He's no longer covering you. He allows you to live your life as you have always willingly wanted to live your life, without any authority above you. That is exactly what happens. You are given up unto your own destruction. And for this cause, God gave them up to vile affections. When we're talking about vile affections, we're talking about affections, vile affections. When we're talking about vile affections, we're talking about affections that are corrupted. And when they were given up to vile affections, they started doing certain things that represented filthiness, immorality, corruption. And they did this against their own bodies. Why? Because God gave them up to sin against their own bodies, to the level that others even changed the natural use of their own nature, and they did the opposite, changing the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise, in the process, men living the natural use of a woman, bent in their own lust towards one another, men sleeping with men, women sleeping with women. This is where homosexuality and bisexuality started. It was because God had given up men and women who no longer wanted to submit to God. Why? Because they wanted to do things their own way. So when God gave them up, it was like a husband giving up his wife. And the wife becomes single. She no longer is a husband. And the next thing is that that wife is going to become a prostitute. She's going to get used by anyone who comes. And that is exactly what the devil then did. He then took the position of God, though he is not God, and started bringing in and influencing devices of evil. And God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which were not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness of fornication, wickedness, all manner of evil things which represent disobedience and rebelliousness, was filled inside their hearts and inside their minds. Now, the sin that they have been given up unto is now inside their minds, is now inside their hearts. You know that when someone begins the life of sin, it begins with an attempt, or you are testing. You are doing a test drive. Like someone who recently bought a new car. And it reaches a level where you now know the operations of that vehicle that you purchased. It's no longer a test drive. It is the same thing when you have been nurtured by the sin that you are committing to the level that even whilst you are sleeping, you become a custodian of that sin. You are now committing that sin even whilst you are sleeping. Why? Because it's no longer a test drive. It's now happening inside your mind, even whilst you are sleeping. It means your imaginations have now been corrupted. Your mind is now thinking only towards those things that you are restricted by God. Why? Because you have been given up by the Lord to think of those things that are represented by vile affections. And the next thing what then happens is that you become a sex pervert. When you become a sex pervert, you become a sex pervert inside your mind. When you become a sex pervert inside your mind, even the day you then decide to seek the Lord, even the day you then decide to leave every sinful act that you were engaged, every former sin of sexual immorality, be it masturbation, be it foreplay, sex, be it any other sexual activity that you once used to commit under bisexuality and homosexuality, when then you decide to turn away from those evil, sexual, immoral activities, the devil will not just let you go freely, just like that. They are dirty sex tapes that continually play inside your mind. And how do they continue playing? They continue playing in the realm of sex, inside your memory lane. And when they continue playing inside your memory lane, they are continually playing for the sake of re-inviting you to the past that you are trying to run away from. This is why we have married people that are still flirting with their exes, but while they are married. Still married, but flirting with your ex. Still married, but still imagining of your ex. This is why we have people that are still trapped in their former lusts. Now, let's go to the book of Matthew chapter 5 verse 26 so that I can explode the device of these sex tapes, the dirtiest version in the filthiness of mental, spiritual, psychological operations of the devil. It's a philosophy of sex inside your mind that the devil is using against you. Matthew chapter 5 verse 26. Verily I say unto you, you shall by no means come out. In Matthew chapter 5 verse 26, you shall be by no means come out till you have paid the uttermost. This is a conclusion to the passage where Jesus is talking about if you want to enter heaven, it would be better that you cut off your hand, or you pluck off your eye, or you cut off that leg, if any of these body members are causing you to sin. But my emphasis is not on the body members being caused to sin. My emphasis is on the engine, on the player, the reason behind which is causing you to be involved in fornication, in adultery, in flirting. But before we even go there, where you are being told that you'd rather cut off your hand if that hand is causing you to fondle women, you'd rather pluck off that eye if that eye is causing you to lust after women, you'd rather cut off that leg if that leg is causing you to go into places that will cause you to perish in the last hour. In Matthew chapter 5 verse 27, Jesus then says, you have heard that it was said by them of old, that you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you, whosoever looks at a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her inside his own heart. The question is, how do you commit adultery with another woman? How do you end up being intimate with a certain man without even being together practically? It could be someone you are viewing Her profile picture, it could be someone you are stalking and she doesn't know. It could be an ex that you are thinking about. It could be something that you watched on television in that filthy romantic series, and it cannot get out of your mind. What is happening? What is happening is that the devil has planted dirty sex tapes. And how do these dirty sex tapes play? He keeps on rewinding your memories back to those former things that you want to escape. And how does he remind you of those former things? He simply feeds you with the lust of the former life. And when he feeds you with the lust of the former life, you are fed with the filthiness of immorality. When we are talking about the dirty sex tapes, we are talking about the filthy imaginations that are continually replayed inside your mind. You know that when you have a laptop, when you delete things in your laptop, they are not taken out of the machine. They're not taken out of the laptop. They're taken into a folder that is called a recycle bin. So the business of the devil here is to go to the recycle bin, and then he recycles the old material and he brings them back to the machine. And the machine here is represented by the brain. The brain capacity has got the main conscience, and the main conscience is responsible for those things that you don't do deliberately, but the things that you do intentionally. But there are things that you do deliberately out of frustration. And the things that you do deliberately out of frustration, they are the sins that you commit consciously. And when you commit those sins consciously, it is because you have been given up to a reprobate mind, a mind that is redundant in the area of having the flexibility of liberty. You must have the liberty to say no, the liberty to restrict yourself from watching certain content that you keep viewing on TikTok or Facebook, especially on Facebook Reels. 99% of what they are publishing, be it a comedy, be it a skit, anything that is being published right now, it is designed to captivate your mind. It is designed to control your minds and lead you into the filthiness of sexual immorality. All these socialites, they represent the kingdom of the devil. I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, but I'm judging the content that they are creating and sharing online. All of them, they are working for Lucifer, the devil. Their business is to corrupt you. This is why every season they are sharing sex tapes online. They are deliberately doing this to earn recognition. They are being used by the devil to spread filthiness. And when you have someone in each and every season sharing his or her sex tape, what that person is doing is that they are being used by the devil to plant dirty, filthy thoughts inside your imaginations. They are being used to activate the recycle bin, which is loaded with the past former sins that you had deleted outside your mind. But the reason why you are still in the word is because those activities, they had not yet been completely removed. This is why you are still praying and fasting, because they were still in the recycle bin. So if you can just come across something that is filthy online, you come across any stupidity of the filthiest posts of immorality, that one single post is able to activate the 3,000 or the 2,000 or the 500 files that you once deleted, and they can be recycled back into the main folder inside the conscience of the brain that is working. But what is happening? The activation begins in the realm of sex. They have to entice you through their language. This is why you realize that 90% of what is being posted by people these days is all about sex, nothing else. Why? Because it's an evil generation. All these content creators that are online, they cannot create any content without using sexual content. And even the authorities that are running Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, they tolerate that nuisance, but they go against us that are preaching the word. In actual fact, they can actually pull down my sermon because I have exposed them. But they will not pull down a dirty post. They will not pull down a filthy post. Why? Because they are working for the same organization in the spirit. So what happens after you have watched those things online, after you have read those filthy conversations, after you have listened to those filthy dialogues, those unnecessary skits with the vulgar languages, they are replaying the old tapes. And those old tapes are none other than the dirty sex tapes versions. They become the dirty sex tapes versions because of the content that they are carrying. And they continue replaying, yet you have given your life to Jesus. And they continue replaying. They are replayed even when you have moved on. They are replayed even when you have given your life to Jesus. They are replayed up until the level they induce you and you go back to the sin that you earlier committed. If it is in marriage, they will make sure that they will frustrate that marriage night and day. They will frustrate that marriage from all angles and make that marriage useless. This is why you realize that most married people, they've got lock codes, passwords inside their phones. What is happening? There are sex tapes that are playing. There are dirty sex tapes that are being played. So when they are being played, they've got a channel that they use inside the mobile phones. This is why you realize that a certain married man will be chatting with 1 or 2 females inside his phone. What is happening? Those 2 people probably that he's chatting with, he's not even fornicating with them. But what is happening? They represent a channel that must activate all filthiness of sexual immorality inside the mind of that married man. Be it even a married woman. She can just get wet by flirting with an ex-boyfriend. Or she can just get wet with flirting with a certain guy that she admires. All that is a channel. It is like a valve, a control valve, that which they are using to control your emotions, to control your conscience, to control your brains, to control your mind, to control your imaginations. And at the end, they will manage to captivate your body and start controlling your physical conduct. That's when you are given an appointment for sex. That's when you make up an appointment and it ends at the lodge, and yet you are married. And once you engage physically into the script that has been recycled inside your mind, into the script of the content that is inside the dirty sex steps that have been recycled and then replayed. You know that you're getting activated this time and you can never escape from the sin of sexual immorality. I'm talking about the dirty sex steps version, the filthiest. By looking at a woman and to lust after her, you have already committed adultery with that woman inside your heart. How is that possible? It is possible. We've got young men that can view females from a distance, while the woman is approaching, up until that woman can end up losing her step, because men are looking at her. What is happening inside their minds? They are stripping naked that woman. They are stripping naked that female. They continue stripping naked. Anything that is done by a man before penetration can be done by a man inside his mind by merely looking at a woman, up until that man has an erection with a woman that he has not even talked to. This is why the devil has caused the same women to start planting fake bums, fake hips. Why? Because the devil himself has started the way the brains of a man function. And the way that the devil has started the way of filthiness, in the way that men think, is that he is the same who has deployed the queen to assign his sex demons to plant the evil, dirty sex tapes. Once a man has recorded that this woman who has got certain features like this is good in bed, you cannot remove that from the mind of a certain man. It is a content inside the dirty sex tapes. Thinking that a married woman is good in bed is a dirty sex content. It's a content which is dirty inside a sex tape. Thinking that a married man is also good in bed while you are a single lady is a dirty content inside the sex tapes. Thinking that you can enjoy sex better when you are masturbating is a dirty content inside the sex tapes. Thinking that your ex-boyfriend is going to satisfy you better than your husband is a dirty content inside the sex tapes. The ideology of imagining another woman or another man while you are with your husband or your wife is a dirty created content inside the sex tapes. Whatever is replaying in those dirty sex tapes is nothing that is pure. It is evil. It is filthy. It is disgusting. It is something that you need to get disconnected from. Why? Because the next stage is that everything that you are imagining, you are going to see it in your dreams. This is why in your dreams, you have got men that are coming to propose to you. This is why in your dreams, you are dreaming of the same lady whom you have never talked to. This is why in your dreams, even though you are a married woman, you are dreaming having sex with another man. This is why in your dreams, even though you are a married man, but you are dreaming having sex with the lady that you have never talked to. What is happening? These are the recycled materials, the files that you once deleted, that have been recycled back into the hard drive, which is called the brain. Child of God, I'm here once again to expose the filthiness of imaginations which is being played by the dirty sex tapes, the former sins, the former lusts. And there is a level where the level of lust is now lusting against the desires of the spirit, and the spirit wants to escape, but the lust of the flesh are holding you as a captive. You are held as a captive by these sex. You might have been someone that was watching pornography before, and you deleted every file. If they were actually physical tapes, you destroyed them or you burnt everything. You deleted every file, but the complete deletion of any file, anything that you once watched, it remains in the recycle bin. Not in the recycle bin of the physical laptop that you're using or the mobile gadget that you're holding in your hands, but in the recycle bin that is inside the subconscious of your mind. That is where the complete deletion. I went to a certain guy that was fixing my laptop some time back, and he had a machine. This was a strange machine, but to those that are technicians in the area to do with gadgets, they know this machine. He had this machine which he could use to trace everything that I deleted. And I was wondering, how is he able to trace things that I deleted? Those things, they were no longer even in the recycle bin. I'm talking about the stuff that is in the recycle bin being brought back to the main conscience, back to the mind, back to the brains. But here I'm talking about a machine that could trace everything, that even the stuff that you deleted in the recycle bin, he could trace it back and bring that stuff back into the recycle bin. And when he brings that stuff into the recycle bin, then it goes back to the option which says restore, and everything that you once deleted is restored. Child of God, I'm here to expose the dirty sex tapes version. You are not yet fully delivered. You are not yet safe. You have not yet made it in terms of salvation. The devil is not done with you. He is still going after you. He's still coming after you. There are people that want to convince us because of a few scriptures that you have been reading. There are people that want to fool us because you are married to a man of God. There are people that want to fool us just because you have been abstaining for a few months. There are people that want to fool us just because you are close to the Revelator. It's not enough. The devil is still out there hunting you. He's not done with you. He's going to use anything from your past. He's going to use anyone around you. We are now walking, we are now in a season that is very dangerous, where the devil is also in the business of winning souls to his kingdom for the sake of destruction, for the sake of eternal wrath. And I'm here, sent as the Revelator, to reveal unto you the devices of the dirty sex tapes versions, the versions from the former lust that are capable of bewitching you sexually to re-engage into your former immoralities. And I'm praying that you conquer these strongholds of sex demons in the name of Jesus.